Breaking news right now on KCAL9 News at 4. We're just minutes away from what's being called a major announcement on North Korea.
This is a live look now at the White House, where a South Korea delegation is set to make that announcement at any moment now. We'll bring it to you live as soon as it happens.
But first, let's go to our Sandra Mitchell live in the newsroom with a little more on what we can expect. Sandy?
Well, a lot of people are wondering today, did the president's fire and fury threat work? We don't know yet, but it appears there could be some big developments in that nuclear standoff with North Korea. Leaders from South Korea have been at the White House today, and in just a few moments, as you mentioned, the National Security Advisor from South Korea is expected to talk to reporters. All right, let's show you a picture from the White House earlier today. That's President Trump surprising reporters. He popped into the briefing room to talk to them. This is something that he has never done since he became president. And Mr. Trump said South Korea will be making a major announcement. Also at the White House, hours of talk, a delegation from South Korea briefing the administration on their recent meeting with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un. We know at least there has been talk about ending the nuclear program in Pyongyang. North Korea apparently offering to talk with the U.S. about that and about normalizing ties with our country. Over the past year, of course, there have been increasing tensions with North Korea over that country's nuclear and missile tests. It's made a lot of people nervous. So this could be really the diplomatic breakthrough that a lot of people have been waiting for. So let's take another live look at the White House right now, the North Lawn, just outside the White House, where we are expecting what the president is calling a major announcement at any moment. And we are hearing that the North Koreans have told the South Koreans they are willing to meet face-to-face with President Trump. Again, we're going to bring you the announcement live as soon as it happens. For now, Lena and Juan, back to you.
All right, Sandy, we'll get back to you in a bit. Our other big story tonight, a deadly LAPD shooting in Venice. LAPD Chief Charlie Beck ruled the officer messed up and wanted him put on trial. Well, today, almost 3 years after the controversial shooting, that decision was made.
That shooting set off a string of protests. KCAL9's Randy Page is live with details on the DA's controversial decision. Randy.
Well, the question before the district attorney is really quite simple, and that is, could her prosecutors prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this officer is criminally responsible for the death?
The legal issue was a narrow one. Did LAPD officer Clifford Proctor have a reasonable belief that Brendan Glenn posed an imminent threat of great bodily injury to himself or to others? The district attorney concluded yes. She released this video, which captured some of the interaction between the officers and the 29-year-old man.
All of a sudden, just like turn my back.
Officer Jonathan Kawahara captured this video on his body-worn camera as he and his partner Clifford Proctor first approached Glenn. The officers told him to grab his belongings and go, and he appeared to comply. A few minutes later, a security camera captured Glenn as he approached people outside of a nearby bar where, witnesses told DA investigators, Glenn began yelling racial epithets and arguing with people. That's when the two officers returned.
If you look very closely at the video, it appears that the officers were losing control of him. So in that situation, where you have guns readily available to a struggling suspect who is under the influence, belligerent, it is not unreasonable. It's not much of a leap to realize that the officer shot him because he believes that there was some threat of danger or harm.
Police Chief Charlie Beck looked at the same evidence and came to the opposite conclusion, that former officer Clifford Proctor committed manslaughter when he took the life of Brandon Glenn.
He unreasonably believed that his life was in danger, and therefore he took a life.
And today, the attorney representing Brendan Glenn's family offered this.
We achieved justice in the civil justice system when the city of Los Angeles compensated my clients by paying them the substantial sum of $4 million. But true justice can only come through the criminal justice system when a life is taken. There's no going back.
3 years later, three parts of the justice system have now weighed in. The civil court system has weighed in with a settlement of $4 million for the Glenn family. The LAPD has made it clear that this officer is no longer going to be on the force. And now District Attorney Jackie Lacey has determined there will be no criminal charges filed in this case. Let's go back to you.
All right, Randy, thank you. President Trump is making good on a promise to impose tough new tariffs on foreign-made aluminum and steel.
But critics say this could start a new trade war. And as Weijia Jiang found out, some Republicans are still trying to stop the president.
Surrounded by American workers, President Trump signed 2 proclamations at the White House Thursday, imposing stiff tariffs on steel and aluminum.
The actions we're taking today are not a matter of choice. They're a matter of necessity for our security.
The orders put a 25% import tax on steel and 10% on aluminum, with an exemption for Canada and Mexico, pending a new NAFTA deal.
We're going to hold off the tariff on those 2 countries to see whether or not we're able to make the deal.
At a cabinet meeting earlier in the day, Mr. Trump took a swipe at his outgoing chief economic advisor. Gary Cohn opposes the policy and resigned this week.
He's not quite as strong on those tariffs as we want, but that's all right.
Many Republican lawmakers had been working frantically over the last 24 hours to try to change the president's mind. They are concerned these tariffs could harm U.S. businesses.
Prices go up, we lose jobs in the auto industry. It's a bad idea.
Republican Senator Susan Collins says there may be trade retaliation from other countries.
That might produce the opposite effect of what the president is trying to achieve.
President Trump says the tariff plan includes a provision allowing any country with a security relationship with the U.S. to discuss its impact with him. The policy is expected to take effect in 15 days. In Washington, Weijia Jiang, KCAL9 News.
Well, as Weijia mentioned, many American businesses are sounding an alarm about these tariffs.
Yeah, local businesses are no exception. That's because they buy foreign aluminum and steel to make their products. They're concerned that higher prices could hurt sales and even lead to layoffs.
The U.S. Labor Department says the L.A., Long Beach, and Santa Ana areas are home to the largest manufacturing workforce in the country.
519,000 people here build all kinds of products. The biggest sectors include transportation equipment, fabricated metal parts, computers, and electronics. All rely on aluminum and steel.
Former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski was questioned on Capitol Hill today in the Russia investigation.
This was Lewandowski's second time appearing before the House Intelligence Committee. Burbank Congressman Adam Schiff is the ranking Democrat on the committee. Schiff says Lewandowski once again refused to answer questions today.
These included questions about the production of the false statement concerning the Trump Tower meeting, questions about the firing of James Comey and conversations about that, as well as any discussions that Mr. Lewandowski had with the president about the potential of firing Bob Mueller.
Schiff says the committee still has plenty of witnesses to call, but Republicans on the committee are signaling they're ready to end the investigation and start writing their final report.
Traitor! You're selling America out to the Russians.
Another of President Trump's former campaign managers was heckled outside a Virginia court today. Paul Manafort was there to plead not guilty to charges of bank fraud and tax evasion. The charges stem from the investigation into Russian interference in the last presidential election. Manafort faces up to 30 years in prison if found guilty.
A second openly transgender recruit has joined the military. Last year, President Trump announced on Twitter that transgender individuals could no longer serve in the military. The Pentagon said it would not go along with the president, and a federal judge later declared the ban illegal. The first openly transgender person joined the military last month.
A man has been charged for allegedly exposing himself to women in Orange County, and investigators believe there could be more victims. 21-year-old Christian Adam Ramirez was arrested after police found his DNA in a victim's backyard. Investigators believe Ramirez exposed himself to 3 women in Fullerton and Buena Park, including a 17-year-old who was walking home from a bus stop last May. The latest case allegedly happened just last month. If convicted, Ramirez is facing up to 3 years in prison. Well, no more hugs from a California state senator known as Huggy Bear.
That's right. These are photos of Senator Bob Hertzberg from the San Fernando Valley hugging people at the state capitol. He earned the nickname Huggy Bear because, well, he hugs people a lot. But 3 people complained. The Senate investigated and found the hugs were not, quote, sexual in nature, but were, quote, unwelcome by some. So today the Senate gave Hertzberg a letter of reprimand. So no more hugging, it said, and he can keep his job.
Hertzberg released this statement. I understand that I cannot control how a hug is received and that not everyone has the ability to speak up about unwelcome behavior. It is my responsibility to be mindful of this and to respect the Rules Committee's request to not initiate hugs. Well, Compton Mayor Aja Brown is running for Congress.
Brown announced today that she is running for the 44th Congressional District as a Democratic candidate. She'll face off against actress and Republican candidate Stacey Dash and incumbent Nanette Barragán. Brown said today that she is ready to stand up against possible GOP representation in her community.
I definitely don't want to leave our congressional representation to chance, and I think that the outcome of the 2016 election really was jarring for many people, and so we can't leave anything to what could be, and so I just wanted to make sure that at the end of the day I will be blameless and I can sleep at night, and we can just continue to move forward.
Brown made history in 2013 when she became the youngest mayor ever elected in Compton at the age of 31.
First it was road rage, now it's air rage.
Next here at 4, fists fly on a flight to Los Angeles. We'll tell you what set this off.
And arson attack caught on camera. A California homeowner catches someone torching his SUV.
And a blizzard was no match for this women's basketball team. That's all straight ahead right here on KCAL9 News at 4.
Well, they knocked that right out. Taking a look at Santa Monica, people enjoying the sunshine right along the pier. Enjoy it one more day because rain is back in the forecast. I'll let you know how much to expect and when next.
And a live look at the White House, where we are awaiting a South Korean delegation to mark what is being called is being called a major announcement on North Korea. Stay with us. We'll be right back.